Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media. I'm Ryan Linkletter. I'm back with my co-host Brady Penn. We are on the Blitz angle. We have a Week 15 loaded slate of games for you guys, whether that is for the fantasy football playoffs or if you enjoy watching your favorite team on Sundays. Whatever it is, we got each game covered for you guys. A little in-depth preview of each matchup and who we're taking in each matchup. So let's start out in Houston. We got the Miami Dolphins trying to fight back into that playoff race, and they're taking on a Texans team who's honestly been in a slump for the last 2 months. Brady, who are you taking in this matchup?
I like the Dolphins. I've been consistent the last few weeks, even though I'm not a big Tua guy. I'm not a big Miami guy. I feel like they can still get that 7 seed. I feel like it's very possible that they end up winning enough games and the Broncos don't win enough games to where they can get that final spot. And I think it could continue this week against a Texans team that, like you mentioned, is not playing well these last, really, the last 5 or 6 weeks at least. And I like Miami's offense to do enough against this Texans defense that does have a really good pass rush, but has had a honestly questionable secondary outside of Derek Stingley this season. I think the Dolphins get it done 27-20, and I like Jalen Waddle to have a big game here. And the one question is, can Joe Mixon carry this offense? Because even since Nico Collins came back, CJ Stroud just has not been very consistent, and this offense has just still been moving slow. Tank Dell has been a non-factor pretty much all season long, and Joe Mixon has been the reason they've won their games when they've played well offensively. So, will the Dolphins be able to stop him? Is my question.
Yeah, and I think one of the strengths of Mike McDaniel as a play caller is he negates pass rush very well with a quick passing game. And I think they're going to have a great game plan to counteract Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson in this matchup, which will be definitely very beneficial. I'm interested to see if Miami gets their ground game going as well. Devon Achane has been super inefficient over the last 4 weeks running the ball, and it's kind of opened up the passing game for Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, which
He's
has
still
been
getting us
great.
fantasy points, though. He's getting us those
He
points.
is getting them points to the receiving game. I like Miami in this one as well. I think Houston, despite coming off a bye, they have been trending in a different direction than Miami. Miami is playing for the playoffs right now. I think Houston's very comfortable in their position. They're coming off a bye. They're not playing good football. I'm interested to see. I think this is going to be a great matchup. I'm honestly tagging this one as my favorite 12 o'clock game this week. And I think Miami continues attacking the Houston Texans with their wide receivers getting back involved. I think Tyreek Hill has a big day, and I think the Dolphins take this one 27-23. Cowboys versus the Panthers here. Two teams playing pretty hard as of late. I think we're going to get a good matchup here. Who are you taking in this one?
I think Carolina can get it done here. We've seen Carolina play really well over the last month plus, honestly, and Bryce Young has been unlocked a little bit by Dave Canales, it seems like. And I think that the Cowboys are going to be reeling a little bit after the way that they lost that Monday night game. It's a short week for them. And if we're being honest, the Panthers should have beaten the Eagles last week in Philly. So the Panthers are playing really well. Two really close losses to two of the four best teams in the NFL right now by our rankings, and then a couple of wins sprinkled in there as well. So I like Carolina here 24-21, and I think that Bryce Young can have another really good day.
Yeah, I think Bryce Young is playing great football right now. I think that's one of the headlines, honestly, this season is Bryce Young's turnaround here over the last few weeks, and they've come so close, man. It's one thing every week where they just can't get enough to get over that hump and get that win. I think against the Cowboys, this is a favorable matchup for them to finally get that win. They've been playing teams in the playoff mix over the last few weeks now. The Cowboys are the easiest opponent they've had since Bryce Young has been turning it up to a different level. On Dallas' side of things, I think Rico Dowdle has a nice day on the ground. The Panthers are one of the worst defenses for running backs this season. I'm not necessarily sure the passing game for Dallas has a big day. The Carolina Panthers have been actually pretty good against the pass here the last 2 weeks. But besides that, I think Bryce Young and that Carolina Panthers offense does a good job with Chuba Hubbard mixing it in there as well. And they have a good day. And I think Adam Thielen is in for a big day as well. Let's head to Jacksonville. Jets versus Jaguars. Brady, I think this is our toilet bowl matchup of the week here between these two squads. Who you taking?
Yeah, both these teams have horrible records, but I think it's pretty clear that the Jets are the more talented team, and they've lost a pretty crazy amount of close games this year. I don't think the Jets are very good, and I've been very outspoken about their quarterback and their leadership there in New York, but they are a vastly better team than the Mac Jones Jaguars, in my opinion. Somehow Mac Jones and the Jags won a game like 13-6 last week against an equally terrible team, but I think the Jets they've been close a couple times these last few weeks to a W, and I think they're finally due for one this week. I like them by 2 scores here, 30-16. Rodgers had a 300-yard game last week, and honestly, the defense kind of gave that one up there at the end against Miami, so I like the Jets here.
Yeah, I think it's a great week to own Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. They should be in for a great matchup against the Jaguars defense that was ranked 32nd heading into last week before the disaster of the Tennessee Titans offense. And I think both those guys are in for big weeks. We saw them go kind of ballistic last week, and Rodgers have one of his best days of the year. No Breece Hall again. I do think that does play a factor. We'll see Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, and that duo wasn't bad at all last week as well. On Jacksonville's side of things, despite the Jets defense struggling, dude, this Mac Jones-led offense is so bad. One of the worst offenses I've seen trotted out there this year. So I'm taking the Jets 24-17 in a disgusting game. And if you love football, you'll watch this game.
Well, I feel bad for Brian Thomas owners like myself.
Yeah.
They've been absolutely hosed with Trevor not playing. And I know Trevor wasn't playing the best, but he was fine in Brian Thomas.
I mean, he's a lot better than Mac Jones, that's for 100%. Sure.
And so now, I mean, Brian Thomas has pretty much been rotting away on my bench, but thankfully the league I have him in is a dynasty, so there are years and years to come where I can use him.
Yes, sir. All right, Bengals at Titans here. Brady, who are you taking?
Another pretty easy one for me. The Bengals are, in theory, trying to fight for their playoff lives. It's a long shot. I saw a couple of scenarios that could get them in. They're going to need some teams to help them out and lose some games, but I think that they could be on the right path with a victory, a big-time win here this week against the Titans. Titans do have the solid pass defense, but nobody has had an answer for Jamar Chase all season long, and I think him and Joe Burrow will be more than enough to get this one done. We should see a bounce back for T. Higgins, at least comparatively to where he was last week. I actually saw somebody joking that the Bengals are intentionally stat padding Chase and neglecting Higgins so that his price tag goes down this offseason, but I don't think that's going to happen.
That was T. Higgins' first bad game of the year.
Yeah, I'm going with the Bengals here, though, 28-13. I think they're going to do more than enough.
Yeah, I'll keep this one short and sweet. Bengals offense good. Tennessee Titans whole team bad. That's my analysis on this one. The Cincinnati Bengals have been rolling on offense. I think that's very true. And their weakness is their offensive line. Brady, Tennessee has no pass rushers at all. They're going to be able to tee off Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I think Gesicki potentially gets in as an anytime touchdown bet right there too. Chase Brown will be in for a nice day. And on Tennessee side of things, I think Tony Pollard is probably the best bet to have a nice day against the Bengals defense, who struggled against running backs this year. But I got the Bengals 35-17 in this matchup. Ravens at the Giants here. Brady, another game that's going to get pretty ugly.
Yeah, I'm going to do what you just did and keep it quick. Ravens are going to blow out the Giants. Hey, listen to this that I saw from Giants practice today, reportedly.
I saw this.
Had a red zone period of practice today outside in 30 degrees in which the offense went 0 for 17 on passes, 0 for 4 versus air, and 0 for 13 in one-on-ones versus defenders. Combination of drops, overthrows, plus 2 catches out of bounds. That's
Giants football,
well.
Baby.
That just doesn't bode well. I mean, we've talked about the fact that they're pretty openly tanking. I think it's getting more and more evident that
they're working on tanking during practice.
Right. Either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward is going to be who they go with in the draft. I'm convinced. And, there's not much more else to say. Ravens are still trying to keep alive in the AFC North before they see the Steelers again, and they will stay on the right track this week. I'm going Ravens 34-13 here.
Yeah, I got the Ravens 35-10 in this matchup. They're going to run all over them. I wouldn't be surprised if Lamar ends up with under 20 passing attempts in this one. They're going to run the ball a lot. Derrick Henry's going to be in for a big day. I don't necessarily see them using Lamar's legs as much as they have, considering that this matchup's going to be a breeze.
Yeah,
Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell get involved as well. Ravens have a good day and great week to own the Ravens defense.
Hey, just to add on, I saw a video yesterday that really made me think. 2022 draft for the Giants, absolute disaster. 2 top 10 picks, and they went with Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. Evan Neal is one of the worst tackles in the NFL right now. And Kayvon Thibodeau showed a lot of promise his first 2 years, but I saw that if you dive deep last year, I think he had like 10 or 11 sacks, but He had a 35% pressure to sack conversion, which if you know anything about the statistic is completely unsustainable. This year he has 10 pressures all season. Guys are just looking like major busts, and it wasn't a good class for the Giants.
No, definitely not a good class for the Giants there. I'll talk about our next game here. Chiefs versus the Browns. Brady, I honestly talked to you about this one a few days ago here. I think this could be a game that is a trap game for the Chiefs. It's their first game, the 3-game stretch in 11 days. That's been very publicly known that they have this stretch coming up. And the Browns have an elite pass attack right now with Jameis Winston. They're going to throw the ball 40 times. They don't run the ball very well. And that's going to potentially beat up a Chiefs secondary that has stunk over the last few weeks. And I'm interested to see if Joshua Williams being healthy for a full game, if that does help them a little bit. I think that's the X factor in this matchup for KC. Then on the offensive side of the ball, are they going to get back to playing good football? DJ Humphries is out this week. They're facing a great pass rush. Not a great matchup considering the fact that they've struggled with pass rush this year. Let's see if they have anything to figure it out. I'm going to still pick the Chiefs. I think it's dumb not to pick the Chiefs in this one to hurt my record, but I'm definitely on upset watch with this one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs here as well. It's going to be another one-score game. It's probably going to be something annoying that happens, but I do like the Chiefs here. I think that Jameis Winston could at least rack up yardage in this game. I'm not sure how efficient he's going to be, but I look for Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy's really the X factor. He's seen this Chiefs team and this Chiefs secondary. He knows them well. I think this will be his probably 7th career game against the Chiefs, and but we'll see how he does. We mentioned how good he's been since Jameis came in, but I'm interested to see what the Chiefs tackles do against Myles Garrett. Obviously, probably going to be a lot of double teams on Myles Garrett, but double teams don't face him the way they do a lot of other guys. So we'll see. I do think this is going to be another game. We see Mahomes get hit, and we see the offense be pretty ineffective for the most part, especially in the red area. But I like the Chiefs here 24-20.
All right, Commanders at the Saints. Brady, Commanders coming off a bye week after that kind of rough month stretch there. Do you think they're better against the New Orleans Saints this week?
Definitely, and I know this game's in New Orleans, and this is where Jaden Daniels played college football. And even if Derek Carr was in, I had the Commanders winning 27-17. I might have to reevaluate that if Jake Haener gets to start. Second-year Jake Haener could be getting his first career start on Sunday. Supposedly, Carr is dealing with something, and we could see him. If that's the case, Washington's definitely going to run away with this one. But I do like them to win this ball game 27-17 if Derek Carr is in there. Obviously, win even bigger if he's not. But I think the Commanders are they're going to be too good. We saw the Saints struggle with the Giants last week, who we mentioned are actively tanking. And for some reason, the Saints keep trying to win games, which makes no sense to me.
That's the Saints football. Go 7-10 every year.
Yes, most anti-tank team in the history of the NFL. A lot of pride from that ownership group or something over there, but I like the Commanders.
Yeah, I like the Commanders in this one too. I think the best matchup for them, honestly, is the run game. They're going to dominate with Brian Robinson, Jeremy McNichols, and Jaden Daniels on the ground. Going to have a solid day there. And we've seen when they get the ground game going, the passing game comes along with it, and they're more efficient there. So I think the offense is going to get rolling in this one. And on the defensive side of the ball, we should see Marshawn Lattimore in this game. And, you mentioned Jake Haener, Spencer Rattler is going to be starting this week with the Derek Carr injury. It's going to be disgusting. It's going to be a bad offensive performance. We saw what they looked like against the Broncos earlier on this season with Rattler at quarterback. I expect the Commanders to roll and cover in this game. I got the Commanders 28-14. This is a good matchup here. Steelers and the Eagles, Brady. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is one of two really, really good games that we're going to get in the second window on Sunday afternoon. Battle of Pennsylvania teams that are both, at least as far as we're concerned, I think top 6 teams in the NFL. And I actually like the Steelers here. I like the Steelers to eke out a win in Philadelphia. The Eagles' offense has not been good the last 2 weeks. Jalen Hurts has not been reading defense as well, has not been throwing good passes. And I do think there is going to be a concerted effort to get A.J. Brown the football after all of the drama that we've had this week and the lack of targets that he's been getting. I do think we still see a healthy mix of Saquon, but that Steelers defense is really, really good, and it'll be an interesting challenge for this Philly offense, who I feel like is just kind of due for a slip-up. I mean, they haven't lost since they came off their bye week. This is probably the toughest opponent that they have faced. I thought it was the Ravens, but I mean, by all intents and purposes, so far, Steelers have been better than the Ravens, and they have a head-to-head win over them. So this is probably the best team that the Eagles have seen since that bye week, and I like the Steelers to win this 24-23. I think it just comes down to T.J. Watt in that front seven being able to fluster Jalen Hurts just enough in passing downs and situations. I think that T.J. Watt is going to make a play late in the game to seal this one, as he has so many times.
This is going to be a low-scoring game. Both teams stop the run very well, and that's both the offense's identities for both teams. The X factors in this one is going to be which passing game can get enough going to go and win this ball game. And personally, I'm taking the Eagles against the Steelers secondary over the Steelers passing offense versus the Eagles secondary. And I think that's the X factor for me in this matchup. I'm taking Philly 20-17. And I do think A.J. Brown does get involved more. I know we talked about Debo and how that worked out earlier this week, but A.J. Brown's a different player than Debo Samuel. A.J. Brown is a top receiver in this league, and when he gets the ball, he's a really good player still. So I expect him to have a nice day. I think Saquon is not going to have one of those days he's had over the last month here. It's going to be a tough, gritty game, and I think this is a good test for the Eagles, who've had a relatively easy schedule over this 9-game winning streak.
By the way, just at the risk of being labeled more of an Eagles hater than I already am by our Blitz audience, people that are mentioning this record for Saquon Barkley, if Saquon Barkley doesn't break Eric Dickerson's record in 16 games, it doesn't count to me. I mean, I hate that guys are breaking these records in 17 games now. We've seen it with Kupp. We've seen it with Mahomes. We could see it with Saquon Barkley this year. That extra game just kind of taints it a little bit to me. I don't know. And I feel the same way with Ashton Genty at the collegiate level versus Barry Sanders. And
we got to give it like 30 years when there's a more sample size.
Yeah, maybe. But I just had to go off a little tangent there. Eric Dickerson, it's his record until somebody breaks it in 16 games to me.
Factual. All right. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, both teams in the playoff hunt here. Brady, I'll start with this one. Chargers 21-20 is my prediction here. This is going to be a low-scoring affair, I think. I think the Buccaneers have been playing kind of sloppy the last 2 weeks and have gotten away with playing two bad teams this season. The Chargers present a different task. They are the top-scoring defense in the NFL this season, partly due to the schedule they played, but that defense is legit, Brady. I truly believe that the Chargers have a good defense and they can give people problems at times. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, they need to be more consistent. Without J.K. Dobbins, they don't have a ground game, and that's their identity. I fully expect the Chargers to get back to their identity this week against the Bucs, control the pace of play, run the ball a lot, play action with Justin Herbert, and rely on that great defense. And for the Bucs, they need to limit the turnovers. Baker has been turning the ball over at a high rate despite playing pretty well. And if they turn the ball over against the Chargers, they're screwed. They don't really have a chance in this one due to the Chargers basically controlling the game script most of the time they play. What's your takeaways in this one?
Well, we'll see if Ladd McConkey goes or not. He's been limited all week in practice. Obviously, we didn't see him last week, and he just creates a entirely new threat for this Chargers offense, especially underneath and with the yards after the catch that he brings with that speed. But I'm with you. The Bucs have not looked entirely impressive these last couple of weeks against Carolina, last week against the Raiders. I know they had a good game a few weeks back against the Giants, but they have not really been tested here in a while, and I like the Chargers. I mean, the Chargers had a tough divisional loss on the road in Arrowhead. They're not really fighting they're not fighting for the division anymore. That's locked up. But they are still trying to get in position to maybe be that 5 seed, possibly the 6 seed in the AFC. And
I think you want to play that AFC South team. You want to play the Texans.
Definitely. And I think that it's going to be 28-20. That's what I'm going with here. I'm going with the Chargers winning. I don't think that the Buccaneers offense is going to do enough. And the interesting thing for the Bucs offense is Mike Evans going to get enough yardage to maintain that 1,000-yard streak, even with 3 or 4 missed games. I think he needs to average like 101 yards a game over this final 4-week stretch. So we'll see. But this is very interesting as well in terms of the NFC South storylines, because right now the Buccaneers are a game up on the Falcons. Falcons obviously have a much easier opponent this week in the team that we have as the worst in the NFL. The Las Vegas Raiders, a chance to turn around and even things up again, which in turn puts the Falcons in front. I like the Chargers to win and help the Falcons out after beating them a couple of weeks ago.
All right, let's head to the matchup of the week. The Buffalo Bills are taking on the Detroit Lions this week. I'm actually kind of regret my score in this one after we got on Thursday night. I know the conditions are going to be good in an indoor stadium, but I mean, we just saw two great offenses limited by two defenses in a playoff atmosphere. This is what it's going to be for Detroit and Buffalo. A lot of seeding on the line for both these teams. And I'm taking Buffalo in this matchup. Coming off that loss against the Los Angeles Rams, they have a lot to prove, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They probably took that a little personally that they got bullied the entire day. I think Detroit does have a good day on offense, puts up 28 points. The X factor for this one and me is Josh Allen. He's playing great right now. And what I will say is Buffalo needs to start fast in this one. They need to get back to the ground game. They need to establish the ground game early because if they become one-dimensional, that's what's made this team really good this season at the end of last season is they have been able to run the ball. If they get back to throwing the ball, that's not this Bills team that we think has a chance this year to go win a Super Bowl. If they're one-dimensional, Brady, I don't think they have a chance in this one, but I think James Cook is the X factor. But I'm riding the Bills, 31-28. What do you got?
Yeah, I really don't think Josh Allen has had a bad performance since that Texans game in Week 5 in Houston, where the box score was even worse than he actually was. But I think he's going to continue his amazing season, and I see all these people on Twitter, mainly Lamar Jackson fans, that think it's just ridiculous that Josh Allen's going to win MVP and that he hasn't been that good. It's a bunch of nonsense. This dude has been phenomenal. He's put great throws on tape once again, and the thing for me is that he has limited the turnovers. The turnovers simply have been way cut compared to the past few years, and we've talked about how
I will say this with Josh Allen, you have to give the guy credit for working on his biggest mistakes. When he got in the NFL, he was not a very accurate quarterback. No one says that about Allen anymore, and now he's cutting down on the turnovers.
Yep.
Like, you got to give credit when credit's due.
100%. And I do remember people in the offseason, we talked about this, were saying, this is, I mean, partially us included to an extent, this is the worst Bills team in years for Allen. The receivers aren't good enough. The defense isn't going to be good enough. And now you look at them and they're still trying to fight for that one seed. I think those dreams die if they don't get this win this week. But I think that Josh Allen is going to get the win. I think he's going to lock up the MVP this week. I feel like the Lions are sort of similar to the Eagles in that they've been really close to a slip up these last few weeks. They played some divisional games that they've won by a score multiple times, and they've escaped. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do the same thing against a team of this caliber, and I like the Bills here 34-28. And the way that the Bills defense had a couple of their flaws exposed last week, I think we could see Josh Allen do that to this number 2 ranked Lions defense.
100%. All right. Colts at Broncos here. I think this could be a tighter game than a lot of people expect. I think the Colts offense matches up well with what the Broncos do on defense. They could be able to run the ball well with AR and Jonathan Taylor. But I think Bo Nix does a good job against a pretty bad Colts defense. Take this one home 27-21, and the Broncos stay on pace for a wild card slot before their tough schedule to end the season. Brady, what do you got in this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting battle between two young quarterbacks. Obviously, one of them has had more success kind of off the rip than the other. It's been an uphill battle for Anthony Richardson, who's dead last in completion percentage in the NFL. And I don't think that that's going to improve against one of the best units in the league. I will say Broncos do rely a lot on creating pressure, and Anthony Richardson is good at evading pressure and stepping up in the pocket using his legs. But I like the Colts here. I think that Bo Nix will have a decent day. 23-17 is what I'm rolling with. And, yeah, I think the Broncos defense is going to do enough to hold down this Colts offensive attack.
All right, let's go to your team and then the team that you fell in love with for a little bit there, the Arizona Cardinals. Brady, who are you taking between the Patriots and the Cardinals in this matchup?
I'm going with the Cardinals in a sloppy football game, and I'm going to say the same thing I'm looking for from the Patriots that I do every week, a good Drake May performance on tape. Don't care about win or loss. A loss is obviously more advantageous at this point for the Patriots in the Travis Hunter sweepstakes, possibly. That's who I want. But I think the Cardinals will get this win and just, like I said, keep that just faint breath that they have in the NFC West alive. It's very slim, but I don't think it's going to be completely shot down this week. They're in Arizona, and I like the Cardinals to win this one. There's not a whole lot to it.
Yeah, I like the Cardinals too. I think Kyler Murray has shown that they're very successful on offense when they play man coverage teams. The Patriots this season ranked second in man coverage rate this year, which provides a great matchup for this Arizona Cardinals offense. And obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. has been one of the most inconsistent options at wide receiver this season, but he ranks 8th in the NFL in route win rate versus man coverage. So I think he has a nice day. against the Patriots. I know he'll be going against Christian Gonzalez, which would be a tough test.
I was going to say Marvin Harrison and Christian Gonzalez. That's a good matchup. Good young
That
matchup.
is a great matchup. I'm interested to see Drake May against this Cardinals defense, who has been really good against the pass over the last few weeks here. Not as good against the run, so we'll see if Ramondre gets going. I think it is a tight one-score game, but I think the Cardinals hold out, keep their playoff hopes alive for another week, win 24-20. All right, two playoff teams right here as it stands, the Packers and the Seattle Seahawks. This is a must-win game for the Seahawks after the Rams win over the 49ers on Thursday Night Football. Who are you taking in this matchup?
Packers have been balling, man, and this is a good offense going against a really good defense. I talked about this in our last episode, that the Seahawks defense has just been really, really good over the last month or 2 months. They got Ernest Jones. Ever since the bye week, they fixed some things. Mike McDonald, we've seen him translate some of those things that he taught in Baltimore last year for a historic defense to the Seattle defense that does have a lot of young talent on it. You add Jones in at linebacker, and then you've got Witherspoon, Woolen, Julian Love, those guys in the secondary. That makes for a pretty good team that I think can only get better, but I don't think their time is yet. I think the Packers have a little bit more experience, and even going on the road against the 12th man, I like the Packers to get it done. I think that the offensive attack is going to just be running the rock with Josh Jacobs. Ernest Jones has much improved the Seahawks run defense, especially on early downs, but I think that Josh Jacobs is going to have a big day, and the Packers win at 23-20.
Yeah, I think the ground game is going to be the X factor for the Packers. It's been inefficient. It was inefficient last week. Jacobs was a little bit hotter in the weeks prior to that. But what I will say with the Seahawks, right, you mentioned earlier the defense has been playing better, and that is very true. I think that with the Green Bay Packers, they need to rely on Jacobs early on, open up the play action game for Jordan Love in the passing game. And on the defensive side of the ball, their run defense has dominated over the last few weeks here, and it's been a strength. We'll see against the Seahawks, who, though, ranked top 5 in passing attempts per game, if they could stop DK, JSN, Tyler Lockett, those guys there. But I like Green Bay in this one. They match up well with the Seahawks team. I got them 24-17. Heading to the Monday Night Football games here, we got 2 of them this week. Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. Oh, boy, nice voice crack there. It was a really close game last time, went to overtime. Between these teams last time, who you taking?
We talked about the Bears defense last week struggling with that Eberflus, and I think that could continue this week, especially against a Vikings offense that is just sizzling right now. I mean, these guys have won 5 or 6 games in a row. Sam Darnold had 5 touchdowns last week. Jettas and Addison right now look like the best wide receiving duo in the league. They've got Aaron Jones playing well out of the backfield, and this is a good defense, a really good defense as well for Minnesota. Give me the Vikings 31-17 here, and hopefully we see a little bit better performance from Caleb than we did last week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it can get much worse than the Bears' first half performance last week. The Eberflus regression is real. This defense is not as good as it was in the middle of this season, and it's going to be an Aaron Jones game. They're going to be able to run the ball efficiently. They're going to be able to set up what they want with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and I think Jettas is going to have a little bit of a revenge game. If you remember 2 or 3 weeks ago when they matched up, Jettas had a very quiet day in that matchup, and I think in this one, Jettas comes back with a monster game. I think defensively, it's going to be interesting to see how Caleb handles the pressure rate that the Minnesota Vikings bring. If he's looking down at the pressure like he has this season, it's going to be a long day for Bears fans and the Bears offense, and we're going to hear more and more about how bad the Bears need to bring in an offense. I'm taking the Vikings 27-23. I do think the Bears keep it close in this one. The last game of the week, the Atlanta Falcons versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I have no clue who thought this was going to be a good primetime matchup before the season started, but here we are, Falcons and Raiders. The Falcons have lost 4 games now in a row. The Raiders obviously coming in. They're going to start Desmond Ridder in his revenge game. What are you thinking in this one?
Revenge game. No. The Falcons are going to get it done here. They're going to hop back in the saddle. Who knows what the final 3 weeks will bring, but the Falcons will be leading the NFC South heading into that final stretch. They will see the Panthers one more time, I believe the Commanders, and then the Giants are their final remaining 3 opponents. So they've got a decent shot, but we'll see. I think the Panthers are that final game, so who knows? Maybe we get Bryce Young playing spoiler at the end of the year, but I like the Falcons in this one, 28-14, and there's just not a whole lot to say. As long as Brock Bowers doesn't go absolutely nuclear, Falcons should be in shape here.
Yeah, the Falcon secondary stinks. It's been really bad here the last few weeks. I don't think Desmond Ridder is that good of a quarterback to expose that bad of a defense. But you do have Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers out there, two really solid pieces, and they're going to have good days if they get the ball in their hands, which is a big if right now. On the offensive side of the ball for the Falcons, Kirk Cousins has thrown 8 straight interceptions without a touchdown pass, which is crazy to think about, considering the fact they've actually moved the ball better. So what I will say, I think they rely on the ground game. I do think Kirk breaks the streak. I think it'll be someone. It'll be Drake London. It'll be somebody that gets going. I don't know. Maybe Kyle Pitts will sprinkle in there, but I'm taking the Falcons in a 2-score game in this one. They get back on track, and like you said, regain that NFC South lead. But hey, we really appreciate you guys tuning into the Week 15 prediction show. Drop a comment down below your lock of the week in that comment section. Hit that subscribe button for more Blitz Sports Media content, and we'll catch you guys next time.